to Capacity, where heart, grit, and irreverent humor collide. A podcast for people too stubborn to quit and too creative not to make a difference. Hi, I'm Pat Benincasa, and welcome back to Fill to Capacity, episode 118. Grounded and Gutsy, Rachel Finch on life with horses. Rachel started in the world of English riding, dressage, where horse and rider move with ballet-like precision. But her true rhythm came in Western training, working with what's called the cow horse, athletic horses bred to handle cattle with speed and smarts. Now, in her very early 20s, Rachel runs YP Performance Horses, her ranch in rural Queensland, Australia, where she's built a training program centered on patience, trust, and partnership. She's not just turning out performance horses, she's shaping relationships built on feel, respect, and understanding. Today on Fill to Capacity, we explore Rachel's grounded, gutsy way of training, where patience and partnership take the lead. Well, welcome, Rachel. So nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm trying to wrap my mind that I'm talking to someone on the other side of the world here.
Oh, I'm the same. It's hard to think that you're a day behind us too.
I know. Okay, so let's start with the basics. 25 horses, 14 in training. That's a lot of lives to manage. What does an average day look like for you, and how do you keep your work meaningful? How do you energize yourself?
So luckily I've got a beautiful team of people working with me. So just recently, my fiance, soon to be husband, he started working for me full time. So I've got him, he assists with the training. He does as much as he can catching. So that takes that part of my day away from me, all the time that gets wasted. So I can spend more time in a saddle with what people are actually paying me to do. And I've got a couple of grooms, which, take that aspect of washing and grooming the horses. So it just gives me all the time that I need to focus on being on their backs, working on what they need to improve, and just doing what the owners have asked me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you started in the English world, dressage, precision, and balance. Then you shifted into Western cow horse work. What was the aha moment when you knew you found your place?
Well, I love the refinement of dressage, but in all honesty, it gets very boring after a while. And that's not a diss to dressage riders or hacking riders, but it's more, I love the refinement, but I love speed as well. So I incorporated that into the Western riding. And even when it comes to starting young colts for people, I'm still starting them with that dressage foundation. So they can go on and continue to do whatever they wish to do, because dressage at the end of the day is the base training of any horse. And dressage literally translates to the training of the horse. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, on some of your Facebook posts, which I follow, you've written about the magic moment when a young horse melts into the job. What goes through your mind when you feel that click happen?
Oh, it's just so pleasing to know that you as a rider are actually breaking through to a young horse's mind. It's not a simple conversation where they can speak back to you of, yes, okay, I understand what you're asking of me. It's the understanding from the communication that you're giving them, and finally it clicks with them and it makes you realize, okay, they're understanding it now. We've got something to build upon.
Now, one of the perks about doing a podcast is when a guest brings us into their world and we have to learn their jargon. Okay, I'm going to fess up. I'm urban. but I'm going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about here. Okay.
It's all right.
Okay, so let me lay this on you. A hackamore is headgear used to ride a horse without a bit.
Yeah.
Instead, it uses a bosal, a rawhide noseband that guides the horse through light pressure on the nose and jaw. Rachel, why do you start young horses this way? And what do the riders have to learn from this method?
So generally we start all of our young horses in a hackamore or a loping hackamore or a bosal, mainly for the simple fact of we want them working in the body correctly, working in their face, listening to us and the aids that we're giving, rather than getting on a young horse and pulling on their mouth with a bit and starting off bad foundations from get-go. So for the first 2 or 3 weeks, we'll ride them in a bosal, get that soft, willing demeanor under saddle, despite of having mouthed them with long reining and all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we step them up into the bit because that foundation of direction and pressure and collection then steps up as soon as they've got a bit in their mouth.
So it is a form of really taking your time and guiding them, leading them to having the bit in their mouth.
Yeah, that's correct.
So by the time you do that, there has to be an element of trust, I would think.
Yeah. So when we feel they're comfortable, they're traveling around rounded between our legs, between the reins, we then step them up into the bit because obviously owners want their horses going in a bit, and then later down the track, they'll step up into a bridle and all that type of stuff. When we feel they're ready and rounded, that's when we step them up into the bit because
Okay.
we know we're not going to have to jerk on their faces to stop them, turn them, just get your basic direction.
Now it seems like training horses is one part skill and one part heart. Where
Yeah.
do you think in the process trust shows up the most in your work?
I would definitely say from day dot working with the young horses that come through. Like if they don't trust me, then we're not going to get anywhere. It's showing them leadership, but not dominating them in such a way that they're scared and submissed into doing this work for you. You
Yeah.
want them to learn that being guided by you on ground under saddle is not a terrifying experience. It's something that they can become confident and comfortable with. And like from, as I said, from day dot working with these young horses, that's when the trust starts building. If when it comes to catching, like if you've got a horse that you can't catch, obviously it doesn't trust you coming up, grabbing it, pulling it out of the paddock. So it's like we just recently had an Arab come through here that was basically unhandled. And before I started any of that work with him, breaking in wise, I spent 2.5 weeks just on ground teaching him that it's okay. Like, I'm not going to hurt you. You can accept what I'm doing. It's okay.
Yeah.
And without that, that's where I found a lot of horses start to crumble, is when you get these people that just want to get on, get them going, and, say, I want you on the horse within the first week. But without those building blocks, it's not going to happen. And the way I see it is it's without that trust and connection in the beginning, it's like trying to build a house without, the actual framing and concrete done properly. It's just going to collapse later on. So it's
Yeah. There's something about horses that pulls at people, the beauty, the power, the quiet knowing. What do you think it is that makes them so magnetic, so capable of moving us? What is it about horses?
I would honestly say they're just such, without sounding cheesy, they're a majestic creature. Like they're a beautiful animal. And
Yeah.
there's studies proven that people with high levels of anxiety, depression, once they're in a radius of around a horse, their heart rate actually decreases and they settle. So horses have that healing power about them as well. So in Australia, riding for the disabled becomes such a big thing because a lot of kids and even adults, whether they've got mental health issues or they're really unwell, PTSD, war veterans, or even,
Yeah.
ex-drug addicts and everything. Like they've found a lot of healing with horses because it's such an honest animal that's not going to judge you and can just be there and you can love it. So, yeah.
I love how you say that. It's an honest animal. I've
Yeah.
never heard someone refer to an animal that way. And I know if we had dog lovers or cat lovers here, they'd say, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's that rapport that you establish. And with people who go through a lot, and you've just given a whole outline of different situations, people that have been damaged in life, and somehow it's almost like horses pick up on that
Oh, yeah,
they're sensitive
100%.
to it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's amazing. When I read your posts, I love how horses are treated as partners, as you've been explaining. But was there a horse that really taught you a lesson?
I think there's plenty of them. I remember as a kid, I had this one horse. I've still got him to this day, actually. And I'd learned how to ride on really quiet horses. And I was handed this 4-year-old horse when I was 6 years old. And I didn't come from a very horsey family. That was mum and dad's first mistake. God bless their soul. But and this horse got let get away with all these different things, like came a proper turd is all I'm going to say. He was the first horse to teach me a lesson of manners. And what he was like is what I've built my training upon is you couldn't catch him. You would get on to go for a ride. He would flick his tail, stomp his hoof, not want to go, try and jack up. But it just taught me that firmness of, no, I'm going to do this with you today. We'll work through whatever is going on your behalf, but it's okay. Get over it, essentially. And now whenever I get on a horse that wants to flick its tail or stomp or do anything like that, it just takes me back to this poor little 10-year-old sitting on this horse going, Mom, he's not going.
It almost sounds parental in the sense that with firmness and guidance and respect,
yeah,
and the
exactly.
back and forth.
Exactly. So it's exactly like that. And that's what I say to a lot of owners that come through with their horses is, you've got a 2-year-old or 3-year-old horse that you're presenting me that's got all these issues, goes to bite, kick, rear, or buck. They're toddlers at the end of the day, and you've got to treat them like toddlers. So if you start letting them get away with all these little itty bitty habits, it's just going to turn into this big explosion later on. So it's the same thing as looking after a little child. If they scream and kick because they, don't want to go to school, well, you work through that and show them the firmness of, no, you're going to school. So what parents have to deal with in the terrible twos and everything is what I sometimes have to deal with when it comes to these young horses as well.
Yeah. Now you're talking about young horses. Have people come to you with horses that are mature and say, hey,
Yes.
I got a problem?
Yes. And then that's the total other end of the spectrum because their brains are so much more developed when they come to me, 8 years old, that their brains are developed. They have already inbuilt these habits. So you've got to go back to square one and actually redo and re-educate them from the single building block, because it's harder to educate a more mature horse, where your younger horses are sponges.
So what is the lifespan of a horse?
Oh, it just really depends. I've seen some horses get to 35. So it's, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now, as a young trainer, you're building not only horses, but also a reputation. What's the biggest challenge and the biggest surprise that you found in carving your own path?
I think community opinion would be the biggest thing. Being so young, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the world's best trainer. I'm the furthest thing from it. But a young and up and coming trainers come in advertising they can, break and train horses, give them miles, re-educate behavioral issues, where you've got people who've been in the industry for 40 years that have got years of experience on me. And someone sat me down one day asking, why would someone spend X amount of dollars each week to send a horse to you when they could spend $100, $200 more to send it to a trainer that's, accomplished, won national titles, has a world of experience on top of you. And my reply was, because I can offer something different. Yes, all these trainers are brilliant, but they treat the horses like a machine, where I'm taking the time to treat every horse individually and give them the time and care that they deserve and work a method that works for them. I don't have one set training method for any horse that comes through here. I get on, I assess with breakers, some horses take to stuff differently than other horses. So I develop my own method to suit every horse. And imagine getting on them, and once you finish riding them, it's like having a little cassette tape in the back of your head. Once you finish riding them, you take that cassette tape out and put the next one into the next horse. So it's carrying different methods for every horse and not carrying on a bad ride or a bad experience from two rides beforehand. It's just adapting. And that's the biggest thing I say to clients, is that's what I can offer. Is it's just not one concrete method that I force upon every single horse.
So if someone says, oh, we need to take our horse to Rachel Finch, what do they know that you're going to do?
Well, they know that I'm going to work with their horse, and, obviously that, but then actually work through whatever's going on with that horse, but also work with the owner as well. So we heavily encourage owners to be a part of their horses' training programs. Watch what happens, see what they've got to expect when this horse goes home. And, in the final weeks of their training, we heavily encourage them to come and ride their horse under instruction. So we generally charge for lessons, but with such an instance of them having a client horse with us, we give them those lessons for free because we want them to have the best outcome for their riding future and journey once they leave that from the property.
It almost sounds like couples therapy in a sense.
Essentially.
When you think about it, like, you're really re-educating the horse and the owner in a new way of being with the horse.
Yeah, that's correct. I never thought of it like that, actually.
Maybe you could say, yes, we are horse therapists. Yes. I'm curious. Animals have personalities. We have 3 kitties, and they're very different from each other. Olive is the littlest girl in the house, and she'll give a skank eye to the 2 boy cats, and they run. And Bruno is just always sleeping. And then Marco Polo is like a linebacker. He's just a tuxedo kitty. That's just a love bug. But they have very different personalities. And so, have you worked with a horse that has resisted everything you try as if you're in a test of wills?
Yes.
You have,
so,
okay.
Yes. So we took on a practically unhandled, it only seen man when it was run into a crush, sedated and castrated. And we had this gelding loose on a float when it got here, ran it into yards, and it was nasty. Like, he would rear over the top of you, strike at you. Once you put a halter on him, he would rear up and flip on his back. All the things. He had a lot of issues going on. Like, we feel he was inbred. Like, he had what you call a cleft palate. So the top of their mouth palate is non-existent. So, and he had clubbed feet, so deformed feet as well. So he had a lot going on. So no wonder the poor bugger was so grumpy. The first 3-4 weeks with him, it was a challenge. I was saying to my partner, I'm really not getting anywhere with this horse. What do I do? Do you think I just call the owner and say, no, it's not working? But then one day I decided to change my tactics working with him, and just once I'd finished all the rest of the other horses, I changed my approach, and he started to realize, okay, I'm not trying to hurt you. You're not trying to kill me. I don't need to try and kill you back. And 6 weeks later, by the time we finished starting him under saddle, he was quite enough to be a kid's horse. I've had a lot of horses come here, especially even 6-year-old stallions that haven't been touched. And they're going to stand their ground. They don't like you. They don't want to do what you ask. So it's just working with them to adjust and make them realize that the world doesn't suck, essentially.
Yeah. But that is important.
Yeah,
That is important. And I taught art for many years. And the biggest thing is earning the trust of students. If I'm asking them to express themselves, well, they have to feel respected and that trust has to be there. And what you're talking about is the same thing, that kind of
exactly.
rapport.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And, it's the same thing here because they're basically my students as well. So
Sure.
and if I don't give them respect, who am I to expect for them to respect me? It's an equal playing field, it goes both ways.
Yeah, it certainly does. So
Yeah.
you have a range of horses. Do you like sell some of the horses? Do you purchase horses? Do you do that too?
Yeah. In the last probably about 10 to 12 months, we've had a fair few horses come through to be sold on consignment. And that's a challenge in itself, is because you're advertising somebody else's horse and you can get 20,000 messages, but only 10 are actually genuinely interested. And it's like the term tire kickers. So I'm in a position where I could get a message at 1 o'clock in the morning, and me and my personality, I'll look at it and go, I have to reply to this right now. So there's that part. And yeah, we buy a fair few horses, something that my partner probably hates about me. But and we have like most of these horses, we buy them to train and then sell on. But then I think everyone in my family would agree with this one line is, oh, there'll never be another one like it. So I end up keeping it. So it's,
I want to ask you about that. You cultivate this wonderful relationship, and then someone says, well, I want to buy it. First of all, I'd want to know everything about that person.
oh,
And
exactly.
and the second thing is letting go of them, letting
Yeah.
go after you've worked with them. That must be really tough.
I think, like with personal horses, when it comes to selling them, it's harder for that compared to a client horse, because you learn to build a relationship with these client horses, but then you also take that emotional step back of realizing it's not your horse at the end of the day. You're doing what the owner wants, where, one of my horses, if I list it up to sell, I've got a stock horse gelding and I go to list up probably about once a week because, we've got a wedding to pay for. And then I'm thinking, oh, I can't get rid of him. It's emotional for my own horses, but then you take that step back emotionally when it comes to outside horses that you need to sell for the public. Going through all the criteria of finding them the right home is the same extent, though. Like, you really want to make sure it goes to the right home. And the last thing I want is to sell a horse on, then, find, it's been sold on, or it's been neglected, or, it wasn't the right fit. So I go to the lengths and measures to make sure that doesn't happen.
And I imagine the flip side of that is once you find that they're going to someone who is loving and will care for the horse, that must give you a certain amount of satisfaction.
Oh, it does. And it makes me feel relieved, especially if it's a personal horse I'm selling. I'm very fussy with where my horses go. And it's a relief knowing when they're going to a really good home, because they're going to be looked after, they're going to be loved. And, I remember a few years ago when Stanthorpe had a really bad drought, my parents sold one of the horses that I learned how to ride on, because we couldn't afford feed anymore and everything was just dirt. And even to this day, I'm still in contact with the lady who purchased that horse. You have some people that purchase these horses, you never hear from them again. And then you've got the other ends of the, spectrum, where these people still stay in contact despite selling the horse like 9 years ago. So
Now, you live and work in rural Queensland, wide open spaces, lots of quiet, just you and the horses?
yeah.
Okay. How does that kind of setting shape the way you train and connect with the horses compared to maybe the busier stables closer to the cities? Does
Well,
location make a difference?
I think having such a laid back facility here is what really sculpts the horses' personalities as well. So we have a lot of high-strung horses come here that, you'll walk out a week later and they're on their side sleeping in the paddock, which is a massive thing for them. We've had a Gisties come in with off-the-track racehorses that, have never been able to let down and relax. And 2 weeks after being here in such a quiet, laid-back area, that they're sleeping in the paddock as well. So I think with such busier stables, it's more the thing of there's so much going on that the horse has got so much to physically take in and like absorb, that it's going to take them 10 times longer to actually relax in the setting that they're in. Where here, it's peaceful, it's quiet. They've got their own custom paddock, super safe, shade, everything like that. And are in their own little spaces where they can just decompress themselves before they even start getting work.
What is a paddock?
So a paddock is an Australian term for where the horses are kept. Yeah. So all of our horses in our training program, they paddocks privately in their own areas, in plain wire areas of 100 metres by 35 metres. So it's a decent size for them.
Okay.
And that's the one niche that we wanted to carry on with our training program. Is a lot of trainers really like having horses kept in small yards. So because time is money for them, they want the efficiency. Okay, the horse is right there. I'll grab it at this little yard, work it, it goes back. Where we wanted to have the different approach, essentially, of once we're finished working with them, they can still be a horse. They can go out, be in their pasture or paddock, whatever you may call it, and still do what they want away from just being confined 24/7.
So the idea of allowing a horse to relax,
Yeah.
just to relax,
Yeah.
especially you said you have racing horses. I can't imagine they do much relaxing anywhere in that
No.
lifestyle. So they come to you and they're learning this whole new way of being. So what
Yeah.
happens when they go back to their life?
I guess they just go backwards, wound back up again. And, that's why you find a lot of high-strung horses end up with stomach ulcers as well. So it's essentially, imagine being, especially these race horses, it's essentially being someone with really high level anxiety standing in the middle of a shopping center where, everything's going on. There's so much stimulating you and overstimulating you, where if you take a step out of that shopping center and go stand in a paddock or, go stand in a park and look at the trees or birds, you're going to be a whole lot more relaxed in that environment than such a confined, busy environment.
You mentioned earlier that when you were a little kid, you started to become aware of horses.
Yeah.
Was that inside of you? Like when I was growing up as a little kid, before I think I could even do the alphabet, I was drawing. I knew I was an artist. That's why
Yeah.
I'm on this earth. I knew it.
Yeah.
With you, with horses, did you know that you were meant to be with them and work with them?
Well, I remember as a little kid, actually, I remember watching all these really old school Western movies with my dad, and especially all those John Wayne movies. From that, I always wanted a horse. And I begged and I begged, but mum and dad weren't in a financial position. So I got a horse head on a stick. And I used to lead it around everywhere, and I absolutely loved it. And then one of the produce places where we would get all the stock feed from back then, they had this beautiful pinto gelding for sale. And the man who owned that feed place actually let me ride this horse, and he would lead me around on it. I said, Mum, Dad, I want this horse. I really want this horse. They ended up buying me that horse, which was the one I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And I finally got my first ever horse. And it was from there that, I remember as a little girl, I was laying next to my mum in bed one morning, looking out the window at the cattle down the back, saying, one day I wish all those cows down there were horses. I want paddocks filled with horses. And sometimes I will say, be careful what you wish for, because now it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But no, I think it all just stemmed from being such a little kid, watching all those type of things on TV. And I thought, wow, those cowboys are so cool. I want to look like that. And then my dream finally came true, and mum and dad bought me a horse.
So when they look at you now in this operation that you have, what do they say? What do they think?
They're very proud of me. They just can't believe how far I've come in such a short time. Like, I was riding in a ploughed up dirt section for 14 years. That's all I had to ride horses in. And it was only last year that we had a proper arena installed, and it had to be done twice because the first time the base wasn't done correctly. So that was a financial kick in the bum, essentially.
Yeah.
They're very proud of me. I always joke to my mum, because she said to me, horses are a hobby, not a career, Rachel, because they came from the background where they didn't understand how much money was in the horse industry. And now I pick on my mum sometimes going, see, mum, so much for horses are a hobby, not a career. So I just got to have that little dig.
Of course. There's another piece to this. In running this operation, you must be a pretty savvy businesswoman too.
Oh,
come on.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Like, I'm not going to sit here and take all the credit. My fiance's father, he's a very successful businessman, and he's helped me a lot, given us advice. If it wasn't for him, apart from my talent with the horses, I wouldn't also be where I am right now. Like, he's helped us out a lot, and we don't take it for granted. So anytime we have an issue of, what do you reckon we do with this, finances and stuff, he suddenly clicks over to that business mindset of, okay, do this, this, and this is what you want to do. And I really think having that support and knowledge behind me as well is probably why it's such a well-structured business now.
I have to say, it's really a wonderful thing that in this whole conversation, you know how to ask people for things that you need. It sounds like you're a team player that almost like with the horses, that it's generated by respect.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's it, really, in life. You can't ask for anything better than that.
Oh, 100%. And at the end of the day, like, I give these horses respect, but what I would also like is what I expect from the client is respect from them as well. So it's sometimes it's like you're on a seesaw of, if they hear something they don't like about their horse, then they get their backs up and they don't like it. So it's just this pendulum going back and forth of, you just got to juggle that relationship with a client as well. Respect goes both ways in this industry and with everything. So
yes, it does. As we get towards the end of the conversation, if someone walked away from your story remembering one truth about what it means to live and work alongside horses, what would you want them to know?
Oh, that's a tough question, actually. There's a lot of things. I think probably what I would want them to know is you're going to have your ups and downs, especially in a journey like this. And it gets expensive, it gets tough. You have to make decisions that break your heart, whether it comes to putting horses to sleep with medical issues or stuff like that. But everything happens for a reason, essentially. And where you think you are right now, instead of being so absorbed of where you aren't, think about where you could be in 10 years' time. Like, it's the biggest thing I find is, people struggle with where they currently are, whether it be with horses or something else, where instead of getting so caught up mentally on the present, just think about the future and what you could become yourself. Back when I was a little kid, I never thought I'd be training horses professionally. I remember sitting in class and I hated school. I didn't even finish school. I left school in grade 10. And I started working with horses after that. It's a journey. So things take time, essentially. Everything happens for a reason at the right time.
It sounds like you're fluid. You can roll with the punches. Not that you don't have reactions to them, possibly a curse word here or there, whatever. But at the end of the day, it sounds like you're the kind of person that will always move forward, no matter what.
I would agree with that. And I think a lot of people around me would agree with that as well. Like, I'm in the mindset now, stuff happens, get over it, keep pushing forward. Life's not perfect. And it's the same thing when horses have a bad ride. Like, okay, get over it. It's not the end of the world. Just keep pushing through. It's just making impressionable moments for yourself that makes you feel like you're actually getting somewhere.
Where did you get that wisdom from?
I don't
know. Because that is really wise.
Yeah. But no, it's just, I had a lot growing up to do, leaving school so early and, choosing to do this, that I grew up really quick and had to have a perspective pretty bloody quick as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, Rachel, it's been a joy hearing how you live and work alongside your horses. Thank you for sharing your time and your insight and your wisdom on filter capacity.
It was a pleasure chatting to you.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. And listeners, thank you for joining us and see you next time. Take care. Bye.